Now, it used to be that you would dream of the day that you could retire, but the scary fact of today's world is 78% of working Americans are not confident they will have enough money in retirement.
And to learn the new rules of retirement and how to succeed at them, Dennis Tubbergen joins us this morning. Dennis, so glad to have you here this morning.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So really the question is, how has planning for retirement changed over the last decades?
Well, you said at the outset, 75% of American workers are not sure they're going to have enough money to retire, and they really should be concerned if they're not familiar with the 3 new rules of retirement. And without knowing these 3 rules, there's a very good chance you not only can't retire, but you could even lose the money you already have if you are retired.
Thanks. So those are definitely things that we want to learn. But before that, you know, we were talking about that percentage of how many people aren't confident. Do you have a percentage on how many Americans we think will be able to retire?
Well, the reverse of that would be approximately 20% are comfortable with the fact that they might be able to retire. And if you want those that are really confident, the number goes to under 10%.
Under 10. That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the 3 new rules of retirement. Everybody is just like waiting with bated breath here. Tell us what those rules are.
Well, I brought some props, and I thought since TV people make a lot of money, at least that's what I heard. I'm going to start with a big bill. I've got a $50 bill, and this represents the first rule, which is what I call the 2-bucket rule. And on the $50 bill, there's a portrait of President Ulysses S. Grant, who was a smart guy, military general. He was president of the United States, and yet what a lot of people don't know about President Grant is he died broke. And he died broke because he didn't understand the 2-bucket rule. Now, if you invest the way Wall Street wants you to invest, you put all your money in one bucket, and this bucket contains stocks and bonds, and that can work really well unless we have a financial crisis like happened in the 1870s, and we don't want to repeat the same mistakes that President Grant made.
Okay, so that is the 2-bucket rule. You also have the rule of evolving money?
I do, and on that note, I have a $5 bill, which you might get in change if you spend the $50. President Lincoln is on the $5 bill, and President Lincoln had to figure out how to fund the Civil War. Many times throughout history, our money has been backed by gold. But then periodically, politicians take away that gold backing, and they do that because when you look at having to pay down a really big bill, if you're a politician, you have 3 choices. You can raise taxes, not very popular. You can cut spending, that won't get you reelected, or you can print money, and that's what they often do. So that's what President Lincoln did at the onset of the Civil War. He printed money to fund the war, and we've done that a lot again since the financial crisis. So those inevitable outcomes are things people need to be aware of.
Right. And then we have one more rule?
We do, and it's very closely related to the second rule. This third rule is what I call the rule of economic cycles. And on the $10 bill is a picture of Alexander Hamilton, and Alexander Hamilton is the first Treasury Secretary of the United States. After the Revolutionary War, same 3 choices. He walked into President Washington's office and said, "Hey, George, we've got some debt here we've got to pay. What do you think we ought to do?" "I think we ought to set up a bank that can print paper currency," and that's what they did. And this was the first time in U.S. history that paper currency was actually printed. And when you print money, it seems like things are okay for a while, but then debt builds up in the background, and when debt reaches the capacity of the system to handle it, some bad things happen financially, and we enter what I call an economic winter. And I believe we're entering another economic winter as we sit here today.
Well, and you have also a formula for us that will also kind of help us along the way, and it's easy to remember.
It is easy to remember. I call it the HEAD formula. H is to hedge against evolving money. E, embrace diversity. Use assets, not just traditional assets, but assets that will tend to perform well in any economic cycle. A, avoid asset bubbles. Anybody that had money in real estate 10 years ago knows it's no fun to participate when asset bubbles collapse. And D, don't lose money. Warren Buffett says rule number 1 of investing is don't lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1.
I love that. Well, you know, I feel like we're learning a lot with you here. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I know people are probably interested in hearing even more about what you have to say about retirement. So you actually have a book.
I do. It's a best-selling book, and we'd give all the viewers an opportunity to get the book for free if they'd like it today. All they have to do is visit the website newretirementrulesbook.com. Let us know where you'd like us to send the book, and we'll even pick up the cost of shipping and handling.
Wow. That's amazing. And anytime you turn the TV on, it feels like a lot of people are talking about retirement, how it pertains to us nowadays as it was, you know, before. A lot of people are saying a lot about retirement. Are we going to have the money? What about Social Security? There's so many things to go over. That's why we need the book to kind of dive into it deeper. But we thank you for coming today and kind of giving us a nice little overview of it.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun being here.
Absolutely. Like Dennis said, you can get your copy of his book by logging on to newretirementrulesbook.com.